Hi, this is Professor Gempel, and this is a solution video for a mortgage process. So this is actually going to be our process. And so this will be, let's just call it loan approval underwriting process. You can give it whatever description you want, but it does need to accurately represent what is going on. We need 4 swim lanes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go ahead and label these. This is the loan processing clerk. This is the auditor. This is the underwriter. And this, which is probably going to be a big fat one, we can probably make it a little skinnier here. This will be the manager. Let's go back up to the top. And so just starting with our own, we know that the process begins, because every process has to have a start event. But here, it actually begins when we receive the application. That is a receive message event. Then immediately, the LPC sends the property information to the appraiser. I made that a little bigger so that I can say that this is a send task without blocking over my text. We actually have to fork the process. We have to split it so that we're running a parallel process. And we know that the underwriter is then waiting to receive the appraisal. This is a receive. If you notice, it is the wrong kind of message. It needs to be a receive, which is catching, not throwing or sending. Then the next thing that happens in this process is that the auditor needs to verify that there is a direct document submission. We don't want arrows riding on top of each other. That makes it too hard to understand the process. So we want to go ahead and put it to the side. Then the auditor says, hey, are these documents correct? Let's move this gateway a little closer, because we still want this to be readable when it's printed out on a sheet of paper. If they are, we verify that the information on the documents matches what was put on the application, and that they didn't say one thing on the application, and when we go to confirm it with documents, that we get something else. We need to label this. This is yes process path. Move the yes close so we can see it. If it's not, we request the correct document or documents. Once they verify the documents match, so we need a gateway. So do they or do they not? Do the data match? I'm going to move this up here. I'll slide this over. This is no. They're not the correct documents. Want to keep it separate so it's really clear which is the yes and no process flow. Do the data match? If they do not, the auditor corrects the application data. And then sends a data correction notice to the customer, to the applicant. Now, while this is going on, we are waiting to receive the appraisal. We have to finish this and receive the appraisal before we continue. So we are actually, this will close the parallel gateway because all of this needs to be done and all of this needs to be done. If the documents are correct, then the process comes back together. But if they weren't, we had to do this, and we need to still bring it back. And here, it'd be more confusing if we tried not to just have them right on top of each other. And the reality is it will either be this one or this one. They lead to the same place. Now the underwriter this should be sends. There's a typo here. So send. Remember, tasks and activities should always begin with an imperative verb as if it's an instruction. Check if appraisal is less than purchase price. I'm going to just make this a little wider. That leads us to another gateway. Is it less than purchase price? We estimate the property taxes. If it is less than the purchase price, so this is yes, we estimate the property taxes. We estimate the insurance costs. We calculate the affordability. This looks at other expenses that they have to make sure that they can actually afford it. This is if the data do not match. And I actually put this in the wrong place. If they do match, then the process comes back together. Remember that a parallel gateway will not continue with the process until the process paths coming into it have both been completed. We calculate the affordability. That leads us to the all-important question. Can the applicant afford the mortgage? I'll move this over a little bit. If they can, we approve the loan, and it is the manager who does that. We send the loan approval notice. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger because I want to be able to say that it's a send task and have it still be readable. And if this happens, then we're done. It's a successful loan application. I think if we make this a straight line, we can move this up a bit. And later, if we want to spend time, we can make that perfectly straight. This is yes. If the answer is no, we reject the loan. We notify them of the rejection and the maximum amount that they can afford. And we already know that because that number was calculated here. So there's nothing new to calculate. That's a send task. And then here we're done. In theory, we could have it go to the same end event, but here we can label the text and say this is approved. This could be declined. And so in that way, they're separate end states. And so I prefer to use two separate end events. Now let's go back up here. We've requested documents. And when we've requested documents, a couple things are going to happen. Once we send this request, it's really outside of our control. So we want an event-based gateway. Only events can follow event-based gateway, so you cannot have a task after an event-based gateway. They have to be events. This one is going to be a receive message event. Again, we need to make sure it is a receiving message event. The other is going to be a timer event. Because if we look back in the document, we wait 10 business days. And if not, if we haven't received the correct documents, then we move on with the process. Basically, move on with killing the process. "10 business days. Here we receive documents. We don't want to say we receive correct documents because at this point we don't actually know if they're correct or not. We have to verify it here. Let's try to get these lines straight. So here, we check if the appraisal was received. And the reason we do that is it's going to determine our next set of tasks. Appraisal received. So if we've already gotten it, then we have it. We can't do anything about it. But if it is not received, then we cancel the appraisal. So we're not spending money on something we're not going to use. Okay, Bizagi did something really funny there. I'm going to hit undo. No matter what, we cancel the application. And I'm going to do this because Bizagi did something weird where it was not allowing me just to create a task here. So we cancel the application. We send the cancellation notice. And then we're done. But it's important. This is a special kind of event. It's a terminate event. Because we still might have something going on in parallel process. And just in case, we want to let them know. If anything else is going on, we're done. And so Do we receive the appraisal? If the answer is no, we have not received the appraisal. Let's move that closer to the gateway. Then we cancel the appraisal. If we've already received it, we can't cancel the appraisal because we've already gotten it. Yes, we want the label close to the gateway. And so if we've already received it, we can't cancel it because we already got it, so we skip that. Now we have other roles here. We have the applicant. So we need a pool for the applicant. And we also have the appraiser. Before we add the message flow arrows, let's go and add some little details to our main process. Almost all of these are going to be using some type of computer, so most are going to be a user task. Let's make that a little bigger so we can read it. And this cancellation might be a user task, but we actually have to let the third-party appraiser know about it, so it's more suitable as a message task. And then send cancellation notice. It's a send task. We verify the documents. We're using a computer to do this. We're correcting it in the computer system. We're letting the customer know that we changed their data based on the records they sent us. Make this a little wider. User task. User task. User task. This is going to be a script task. Now we were told that these use databases. There's going to be two different databases here. And remember, where the arrow points makes a difference. If we are getting information out of a database, the arrow points to the task. If we are saving information to the database, the arrow goes from the task into the data store. And if we're doing both, we might need to put two arrows that show both directions. We need to label them. This is the tax database. And this is the insurance database. And just so you know, all insurance companies in the United States have to file their rate and their algorithms with the state government in any state they operate. So that becomes publicly available information. So companies like banks and mortgage companies, they do have that information. So the manager approves the loan or rejects the loan. And I think these were created when it was doing that weird thing when I was trying to do the cancel application. Now let's add our message flow arrows. So we send the information to the appraiser. That line's a little straighter now. And this computer has a slightly older version of Buzagi, which in the old days it tended to be a bit wiggy with connecting message flow arrows. So you should not have this problem with the latest version. My Georgia State computer has it, but the one where I'm recording these videos that has lots of hard drive space, it is using the older version. There's no excuse with the newer version not to have really straight message flow lines. Cancel appraisal. Send that right there. We send a request. This actually needs to be a send task. Just getting that nice and straight. Send data correction notice. And then let's scroll down. And so for both of these, I'm just going to move it a little to straighten it up. And so I should have gotten everything, but I'd want to give it another view. I'm going to validate it, but I bet some of my message flows aren't connected. So I'm connecting it there and here. I'll validate. This one. There we go. And see, this is huge. Right here, it lets me know that I didn't put part of my logic. Is it better than purchase price? I only did the happy path if it is. I didn't say what happens if it's not. I need to let it know that we reject it if the gateway logic is no. It's another reason. That wasn't just a BPMN mistake. That was a huge logic oversight on my part. And so now it has passed, and we can get an idea for what the whole model should look like. And so now I've zoomed out a little bit so we can get a quick look at it.